Many people believe that marriage in the United States is in crisis. And this is because US is having the highest rates of divorce among industrial nations. 1 in 2 marriages that take place today is going to end in divorce. And many people believe that no-fault laws are probably one of the reasons for these high divorce rates. And one such person is ex-governor Mike Huckabee of Arkansas, and I would like to quote him here. He says, "There is a crisis in America when it is easier to get out of a marriage than get out of a contract to buy a used car. Clearly, something is wrong." Governor Mike Huckabee himself married his long-term wife of 30 years through a covenant marriage in Arkansas in the year 2004. Now, the covenant marriage makes getting a divorce much more difficult. There are others like Andrew Sherlin, whom we talked about at the beginning of the semester, who believe that women entering labor force is perhaps the key reason for high divorce rates that we are seeing since the 1960s. All these people are concerned about one thing, and that is the consequences on children. Now, those who believe that it is okay to have divorce feel that it should be an option, it is a freedom of choice, and they feel that to be in a loveless marriage would be hypocrisy. So, is today's high divorce rate a problem for society? That is the question for debate. I would like to call the yes.
Today's meeting in my group is talking about is today's high divorce rate a problem for society? And to summarize it up, is throughout most of the history, marriage was considered a permanent pairing of 2 people, and divorce was a rare phenomenon. The most a couple could hope for was a church sanctioned divorce, which was not an actual divorce but a separation from bed and board. Today, but what makes today's divorce rate a high problem for society is the causes of legal divorce, the consequences, and the points of intervention. And I'm talking about the 3 main causes of what we thought was the main reasons for divorce. We have good reasons to be worried about the divorce rates in America. The rate of divorce has been trending upward. It has been trending upward for more than a century. Between the 1960s and the 1980s, the rate of divorce surged by nearly 250%. But I'm focused on the causes of divorce, and what makes the main reasons behind the rates of divorce are the no-fault divorce, which was enacted in 1969 in California. More than half of the states followed. But this meant that marriage could end by mutual consent, and it was no longer necessary to lie about the reasons for divorce, and it was just easier for couples to obtain a divorce. And the economic changes have played a role in women because the paid workforce and male salaries and wages decline. Economic is a very basic motivator in a marriage, and economic downturn pull realities closer to the bottom line. Marriage is a kind of trade-off of various resources like love, income, affection, domestic labor, and sex. So when the trade-offs are unequal, one person or the other dominant consider disfaction, and then the divorce comes about. Then mortality and individualism is something Americans today place less value on, obligating to others. No sacrifice and self-restraint. But contrast, we place more value on individual self-experience and self-realization and personal choice. This also ties with culture change, and these shifts are a correlation with important changes in attitudes towards children, families, marriage in America, and for more accepting for divorces more than 30 years ago. The causes of legal divorce is the main causes of legal divorce in 2000 were extra mortal affairs, moral affairs, family strains, economical, physical abuse, midlife crisis, addiction to alcohol, gambling, and etc. Workaholism, and out of 1,000 people, 5 people are divorce putting the United States in the leader in divorce rates worldwide. out of 1,000 people, 5 get out. Whatever. That's it.
Okay, I focused on some of the consequences, and in the past, we've accepted and tolerated an increase in divorce rates without taking the consequences into consideration. The divorce laws, especially the no-fault law, have made it much easier for couples to get divorced and mostly favor the adults over the children. And I'm not trying to say that it's a good idea to just stay in the relationship just because, for the kid's sake, but often there's minor conflicts that lead to the divorce where the children suffer. Individualism and self-realization has become the main aspect of marriage, where I'd like to quote Dr. Amber. She's a psychologist, and on this topic she said, "Personally, I think a lot of people waste their relationships and they're not exactly going to be able to replace them. This is part of our throwaway culture. No studies show that we are happier now than we were 30 or 50 years ago. This high rate of divorce isn't making people any happier. And while a lot of people do indeed have good remarriages, there is an equal proportion of people who don't have a happy remarriage because the rates of divorce, of remarriage, and cohabitation are very high. A lot of people are setting themselves up for a second and third similar situation. The laws have also given great advantages to the worker, usually the male, over the dependent spouse, usually the female, leaving an economic and social gap. The children often become victims of the divorce. In the cases where the parents have split due to minor conflicts, the children show permanent negative effects in school performance, high school completion, college attendance and graduation, labor force attachment and work patterns, depression, all their psychological illnesses, crime, suicide, non-marital births, and the tendency to get divorced also, just like their parents did. The increase of the divorce rates is destroying American families and our social structure, making it less reliable and changing our values, traditions, and cultures permanently. The consequences of divorce run deeper than most of us realize. Children suffer the most under the situation.
Of all divorces tend to occur in marriages which had lasted between 10 to 15 years, with 40% ending between 5 to 10 years. The first 5 years tend to be divorce-free, and if a marriage survives more than 20 years, it is unlikely to end in divorce. Nearly 2/3 of today's marriages will end in divorce or separation. 45% of all first marriages end in divorce. Of these divorces, 75% of the divorced women remarry, while 83% of the men do. The figures for second marriages are even more discouraging. 55% of these end in divorce. Why such a high divorce rate? For many today, divorce seems a relatively simple solution to a complex problem, a cheap way to escape from a troublesome marriage. Prior to the divorce reforms of the 1970s, most divorces were based upon the ground of fault. Generally, one of the spouses had to be guilty of some act of unfaithfulness or misbehavior, such as adultery. More recently, this has given way to no-fault divorces. Each year, over 1 million American children suffer as their parents divorce. Moreover, half of all children born in wedlock this year will see their parents divorced before reaching their 18th birthday. Children whose parents have divorced are increasing victims of abuse and neglect. They exhibit more health, behavioral, and emotional problems, are involved more frequently in crime and drug abuse, and have higher suicide rates. Children of divorced parents more frequently demonstrate a diminished learning capacity, performing more poorly than their peers from intact two-parent families in reading, spelling, and math. They have higher dropout rates and lower rates of college graduation. Many teenagers struggle with feelings of inadequacy and frequently turn these feelings into erroneous judgments of pure rejection. Daughters of divorce find it more difficult to value their femininity or believe that they are generally lovable. Sons of divorced parents frequently demonstrate less confidence in their ability to relate with women either at work or romantically.